And to end this newscast, here's a recap of the main points. Capri calls for establishment of open bank to enable greater inclusion of citizens in formal financial system. World leaders in tourism industry pledge support for Jamaica's new Global Tourism Resilience Day initiative. And St. James Police arrest suspected serial rapist. Now the news. Executive Director of the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, Damien King, has called for the establishment of an open bank system that will enable greater inclusion of citizens in the formal bank financial system. The call comes in the wake of a survey conducted recently by Capri, the report for which Dr. King presented last evening during a virtual forum dubbed Check-In, Increasing Access to the Formal Financial System. The survey highlighted several issues to include people lacking financial literacy and the reasons so many persons do not have a bank account. Dr. King said the current financial exclusion is a product of existing architecture and institutions, and as such, what's required now is a system that is open to new customers and services. He said a digital infrastructure is needed.
Some elements need to be in place for us to be able to have an open banking platform that has the potential to meet the unbanked and those who are only partially in the financial system. First, you need a digital infrastructure. Jamaica has already started to put that digital infrastructure in place. It requires a national digital identification system, and our national identification system is on its way to coming into reality. The legislation has been passed, and now the implementation is on the way. Secondly, it needs digital currency issued by the central bank. In the same way the central bank issues paper money, the central bank needs to issue digital currency, known as CBDC.
Dr. King noted that progress is already being made on the regulatory framework to facilitate the open bank.
Regulatory progress has already been made in the directions we need to have on open banking. The Data Protection Act was passed in 2020, and last year, the central bank established a fintech regulatory sandbox, which is a walled-in regulatory space in which startups can test out their new financial products. So a start has been made. What is left to be done? Well, having passed the Data Protection Act, now the regulations that are going to govern that need to be drafted. That's important because those regulations are going to govern the sharing of transactional data, sharing of data on customers and transactions that are going to be conducted under the Act. We also need to draft regulations specifically for the conduct of open banking. Open banking regulations also facilitate data being shareable.
He added that the open bank system augurs well for competition and innovation.
If we can complete the establishment, the drafting and implementation of these regulations, then we're going to have open platforms and facilitating regulations, out of which will come competition and innovation. And it is that competitive innovation that is going to bring new players and new services that are going to seep into every financial service niche. Bringing in the unbanked is not for the existing institutions to reach out to them. It is for the financial sector to be able to reach the unbanked where they are, not to get the people to do what the banks want to do. And by banks, I mean the entire financial sector, but to get the financial sector to meet the people where they are. With an open banking platform, then the reach of financial services will expand to encompass more of the population.
Executive Director of the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, Dr. Damien King. World leaders in the tourism industry have already pledged support for a new initiative being promoted by Jamaica's tourism ministry. This suggestion has been made for February 17 to be observed annually as Global Tourism Resilience Day starting this year. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett recently indicated that the first ever Global Tourism Resilience Day is scheduled to be held at the World Expo in Dubai next month. Speaking at the Let's Connect with Ambassador Audrey Marks virtual session last evening, Mr. Bartlett said support has already come from the World Tourism Organization and the OAS, among others.
So we will be establishing in Dubai at the Expo during Jamaica Week on the 17th of February, the first ever Global Tourism Resilience Day. And for that, we have had the support and the endorsement of the great gatekeepers of tourism in the world, UNWTO, WTTC, PATA, and today we had the OAS confirming their endorsement, and we await the endorsement from the UN and other such bodies. So while we try to indicate the power and strength of this great destination as a wonderful place to be, we are also saying that we have a greater contribution to make, and that is to help the world to understand how to deal with disruptions, how to identify, how to mitigate, how to manage, how to recover, and how to recover quickly, and then to thrive afterwards.
Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has urged stakeholders to exercise patience as countries in the region begin to recover from the COVID pandemic. He said as the world slowly emerges from the grips of the pandemic, now is the time to invest to benefit from the inevitable rebound that is to come. He was speaking yesterday at the ribbon-cutting and grand reopening of the new, re-imaged Sandals Royal Bahamian Spa Resort and Offshore Island in the Bahamas. Mr. Holness congratulated Sandals Resorts International on the reopening of the hotel and encouraged its continued investment in the Caribbean and its people. The Prime Minister noted that as difficult as the last 2 years have been, he's very optimistic of a stronger recovery.
Though we're seeing incredible signs of recovery, we have not yet fully recovered. And all stakeholders must exercise patience in the recovery process. The economy can only exist and grow in a society that is stable, that is looking out for its vulnerable and people who have been affected and their lives disrupted by an event that was not of their making. All stakeholders have to exercise patience for the recovery to happen. It cannot be fair for some people to recover while others are still struggling. Investments such as that made here at the Sandals Royal Bahamian Spa Resort will bear bountiful fruits, and the path to economic recovery will be that much clearer by this investment.
Mr. Holness said it is up to Caribbean countries to be agile and to embrace the post-COVID new normal.
A recent survey by the UN World Tourism Organization suggests that international tourist arrivals could grow by 30% to 78% in 2022 compared to 2021. I believe the Caribbean has the opportunity to recover even faster. It is up to us to be agile and embrace the post-COVID new normal. We have to be nimble and constantly adjust and adapt to whatever the pandemic throws at us. What is clear, however, is that we must cast our eyes to moving beyond the pandemic. Almost 2 years into the pandemic, our populations know what to do to keep themselves safe. They know the protocols and they have access to vaccines. The balance of responsibility, therefore, now shifts from governments to individuals and families for their own protection and care.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. A suspected serial rapist was arrested by the St. James Police on Wednesday. According to reports, a police team was responding to sounds of a woman screaming in the Fairview area when they caught the suspect. The Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse is now probing at least 8 cases in which the man may be involved. These cases occurred around the Union Street, Barnett Street and Fairview areas. Investigators are encouraging persons who may have been victims of sexual assault to contact CISOCA at 876-952-4997 or 876-952-3572. Opposition leader Mark Golding is calling for entities recently established to tackle anti-corruption in the country to be fully operationalized. Mr. Golding was reacting to Jamaica falling one place in the Transparency International listing. He acknowledged that while much has been done throughout the years to strengthen the country's anti-corruption architecture, organizations must be given the necessary resources to carry out their functions. He added that with several reports of alleged corruption recently, Jamaica must do what is necessary to tackle the issue.